We've been talking a lot about Quest protection lately. We talked about these new little front covers, and we got a protective shell cover. Unlike the silicone ones, this is plastic, so it shouldn't block the vents, but we'll find out more here in a second. Now, if you're noticing the background looks very different, it is because we are days away from moving into our new studio space. So we've pretty much packed this room up. There's just a few last little things left behind, but it is just enough that we should still be able to unbox. So we tried multiple different covers lately. One of the only ones I really liked was a smaller plastic bit that just clasped onto the front here. It did block it from working with most charging docks, and this one definitely will too. And one thing it doesn't offer right off the bat I'm seeing is I was hoping some of these have at least a raised lip or even a full cover over the lenses, so you're not necessarily going to be protecting your lenses unless you included, unless it includes some of these. So these are the tempered glass screen protectors. Although I reported even in the last video on these, the only set I've ever tried of these otherwise did not stay on at all. So we'll try and see. These ones at least that actually stick on around the outside, they have a sticky layer. These have been holding up well and staying on, but I'm guessing with how wide they are, yeah, they'd block you from putting a cover like this on this one. So good thing we have our other Quest here that almost slips on uncomfortably easy. It's basically just got 4 attachment points, it looks like. One right back here, one up here, a very small one there too. I definitely don't feel terribly secure about how this one's staying on here. And then same thing on the other side, 2 little attachment points. But with that, it does look like even if you try to wiggle this thing, it's still staying over the vents. These are vents all along the front of the Quest 3, if you didn't know that. It's a lot more obvious on the Quest 3 and the Quest 2, because on the Quest 2, it didn't feel that hot, but with this one, if you go to grab the headset, you feel the heat blowing out the top. So with that, it is covering the front, but you can tell from there, it's really not adding any protection to the actual lenses because it doesn't stick out any further than them. So that's where these things, in theory, should add to that. Let's see, we got 3 of them. One of them does have a hole for the microphone, which is good. These are almost identical to the sets I've tried before. The problem is you'll get them on nice and straight, and then they just, you grab the headset and you move it, your finger touches it, and they just slide right off. But we'll give them a fair shake. We'll give them a try here. Problem is they basically just stick to the glass, and they're not even really sticky. They just kind of stick glass on glass as if that's gonna somehow bond forever. The other thing that I like about these ones too so far is they add just a little tiny bit of space. So if something impacts, it actually keeps it from ever impacting your lens. This is now just a second layer of glass over the glass. So if something hits it hard enough, it's likely gonna break right through both, and I'm not gonna take quite as rigorous of testing as I did with these. One tiny tap on the desk and that thing came right off. Let me see if they say leave it for 24 hours. Same crappy instructions as all the others. It does say put them on before putting the outer cover on, which doesn't really make sense because they don't interact at all, but heck, I guess we'll see why they say that. So although it doesn't say to give it any time to cure, we'll give it some time with that glass layer over it. It definitely does not seem to add any glare, any noticeable anything. And I know I technically should have cleaned these right before putting them on, but I had just cleaned them the other day when I tried to install a second set on here. So I think we're okay, but ultimately, maybe if I had done that, they would last a bit longer. I have very little faith in these as it stands. All right, we'll go game, we'll go play around a little bit, test this cover, see how it does. Boy, it's just barely hanging on. I suppose if you wanted to have something you took on and off, it'd be really easy for that, but it's really not holding on via much. Okay, I guess we'll go away for a little bit and play and try and knock this thing around once these have sat on there for longer and see if these are finally the ones that will end up hanging on any better. So we'll be back. Back after some days testing this out, and remember, we're in the middle of moving, so if you skip to the end of the video, you're like, why the heck does it look so different in there? This is actually our last day now in the old studio before we move to the new one, so it's really exciting. Thanks to all of you and all your support out there. Not any thanks to this protective cover. It does offer some protection. My real qualm and the deal breaker with it is the amount that it has to hold on to it. I found that if I was going to try and lift the headset up, I kept popping it off when I would try and grab, moving the headset around. If I threw this thing in a case, took it somewhere and came out, a lot of times it was disconnected by the time I got there. There are other ones that hold on better than this. I'll leave a link to that other video, although it only covered the main area here. There was a few little issues with it. One, it covered over the microphone. So if you're playing multiplayer games, your voice didn't sound sound as good. These things, I've used many before, and yes, I could have done a better job of really prepping it, but even then, these things, I mean, they barely hang on. Even after a lot of time sitting on there, they just aren't the right way to go. And this is now probably the 5th set of these I've tried and have never had any luck with them holding on long term either, but they are really just an additional bonus. It's really about this piece, and this piece just isn't gonna work out for what you need and what you want. So there are better options out there, and I'll leave some for you to check out instead. But what do you think? Do you think the Quest 3 needs protection? Are you more worried about the lenses or the actual shell itself? Are you using a silicone one? Because if so, you need to be careful. If they slip around, they'll cover up your heat vent in here and you'll just trap heat inside. So keep all that in mind, but thank you once again for being here with me, and we'll see you soon in the new studio and in another reality. No more cool outro to the background.